The people built that kid up to put him on my level. Once again, there will never be a fighter that's on my level.
Я був на тренуванні, у мене було тренування, вибачаюсь, будь ласка.
Floyd says fine. They go for the embrace. Referee Joe Cortez is not there. Boom.
Jay, will they turn into a nightmare here at Wembley? Big right hand from Usyk. Oh! And it's gone.
Floyd Mayweather doesn't just throw punches in the ring, he throws words like jabs outside it, and this time, those jabs landed squarely on the chin of Oleksandr Usyk. In a recent comment that shook the boxing world, Mayweather casually dismissed Usyk's legacy, calling him good but not great, and suggesting that the Ukrainian heavyweight was being hyped for doing what real champions have done for decades. But Usyk didn't take the hit and walk away. No, the unified heavyweight champion responded like a man who's fought giants and never backed down, calm, precise, and with a sharpness that didn't need volume to cut deep. This isn't just a clash between two boxing icons, it's a collision of philosophies. On one side, Mayweather, the undefeated showman who mastered the art of the sport and the business behind it. A man who built an empire with timing, defense, and unmatched promotional flair. On the other, Usyk, the technician, the tactician, the quiet storm who climbed from cruiserweight to conquer the heavyweight division with footwork, humility, and raw skill that speaks louder than any press conference. What Mayweather tried to frame as critique, Usyk transformed into a moment of defiance, refusing to be defined by another man's legacy, especially one built in a weight class far from the battlefield he now rules. This beef isn't just personal, it's generational, international, and deeply symbolic. And if you thought Usyk was going to let it slide, you clearly don't know Usyk.
The first undisputed heavyweight champion this century. Can Oleksandr Usyk pull it off?
It all started with what seemed like a typical Floyd Mayweather moment. Confident, slick, and calculated. During an interview with a boxing outlet, Mayweather was asked about the current state of the heavyweight division. Instead of focusing on Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua, Floyd zeroed in on Oleksandr Usyk, and what he said sent ripples across the combat sports world. "Usyk's a solid fighter," Floyd said with that signature smirk, "but people need to stop acting like he's doing something new. He's not the first to unify belts, not the first to move up in weight, and honestly, if he was American, we wouldn't even be hyping him like this." No knockout punch, no direct insult, but pure Mayweather subtext, the kind that hits harder the longer it lingers. It was the kind of statement only Floyd can make, vague enough to dodge blame, but sharp enough to provoke. In one breath, he downplayed Usyk's accomplishments, questioned the legitimacy of the praise around him, and pulled the ever-loaded race and nationality card, implying that Usyk's global admiration is more about politics than prowess. But for those who follow the sport closely, this wasn't just a hot take. This was Floyd drawing a line in the sand, staking his claim as the gold standard and challenging the narrative that someone else, especially a non-American, could rise to legendary status without going through his gatekeeping. Whether it was ego, strategy, or just another way to remind the world who built the modern blueprint for boxing stardom, Mayweather's words weren't random. And in a world where most fighters would dodge the drama, Usyk did the unexpected. He stepped right into it.
Male Sport Boxing travelled to Spain to exclusively watch the champ in camp. He's looking better than ever, and you're about to see why.
When Oleksandr Usyk finally responded, he didn't come swinging with wild words or emotional rants. He didn't need to. Instead, he dropped a calm, calculated retort that landed with the weight of a heavyweight uppercut. Speaking through a translator in a Ukrainian interview, Usyk said, "Floyd was a great boxer, but greatness is not just about money or fame. It's about who you fought and what you fought for. I fight for my country. I fight for my people. I don't need to talk. I show it in the ring." There was no yelling, no theatrics, just surgical honesty. And that's what made it sting. Usyk could have gone low. He could have mocked Floyd's exhibition fights or called out the cherry-picked resume critics love to dissect. Instead, he took a different angle, one that reminded everyone that his journey wasn't about brand building or pay-per-view numbers. It was about war zones, not wardrobes, about leaving his family during a real conflict to train and defend world titles. In that single statement, Usyk redefined what fighting even meant. It wasn't glitz, it wasn't Vegas, it was grit, it was sacrifice. He didn't just defend himself, he flipped the spotlight and put Mayweather's legacy under it. Because when you strip away the undefeated record and the billion-dollar empire, you're left with the question, who risked more? Who actually fought for something bigger than boxing? That's what Usyk forced people to ask. And in doing so, he didn't just clap back. He made Floyd look small without ever raising his voice.
Usyk. It's AJ's in trouble. Do you believe this?
Floyd Mayweather doesn't speak without purpose. Every jab, verbal or physical, usually comes with a calculated angle behind it. So when he set his sights on Oleksandr Usyk, a man who's never called him out, never disrespected him, and never even shared a weight class, it raised a simple but sharp question. Why? Some believe it was classic Floyd brand defense. Usyk's rise, especially after beating Anthony Joshua and becoming the unified heavyweight champion, was getting loud. Too loud for someone like Floyd, who's used to being the measuring stick for greatness. Usyk's name was starting to float in GOAT conversations, his resume viewed as purer, his victories as riskier. That alone could have triggered Mayweather's instinct to reassert dominance, to remind everyone that in his world, no one's legacy gets written without passing through his narrative. Others think there's a deeper play at work, a promotional game. Mayweather has always favored his inner circle, and with rising stars under his wing, especially Gervonta Davis, any shift of global attention towards someone like Usyk could be seen as a threat. By downplaying Usyk's acclaim, Floyd protects his lane, his fighters, and his grip on the culture of modern boxing. And then there's the angle that no one says out loud, but everyone feels. Usyk represents everything Mayweather isn't: stoic instead of flashy, war-tested instead of undefeated, humble to the point of being overlooked. Mayweather is the face of boxing as spectacle. Usyk is boxing as sacrifice. One fights in Versace, the other trains in trenches. And maybe, just maybe, Floyd recognized that this contrast, this growing admiration for a fighter who doesn't care about showbiz, was threatening the very foundation of the empire he built. Whether it's jealousy, strategy, or simply Floyd being Floyd, the shot was fired for a reason. And the target wasn't just Usyk, it was what Usyk represents. On paper, comparing Oleksandr Usyk and Floyd Mayweather is like comparing fire and ice, both dangerous, both iconic, but forged in completely different worlds. Mayweather built his name on perfection. 50 wins, 0 losses, 5 weight divisions. He dominated with surgical defense, unparalleled ring IQ, and the ability to make the world pay just to see him not get hit. He turned boxing into business, spectacle and legacy rolled into one, and no one's done it like him. But Usyk? He's building something just as powerful, just far less polished. Usyk went undisputed at cruiserweight, a feat that only a handful of legends have ever pulled off. Then, without skipping a beat, he moved up to heavyweight, one of the most dangerous weight classes in the sport's history, and outclassed Anthony Joshua twice. Not survived, not squeaked by, outboxed him, dominated him. While Floyd navigated an era where risk was often weighed against reward, Usyk walked straight into the lion's den and asked for more teeth. Their legacies follow two different blueprints. Mayweather's was about control, picking the right fights at the right time, mastering the media, curating his image. Usyk's is about chaos, embracing any opponent, stepping into any arena, and doing it while his country fights a real war. He doesn't talk about being the best. He proves it by facing the worst. And the beauty is that Usyk doesn't need the crowd to love him, the headlines to favor him, or the market to validate him. He's carving a legacy with gloves, grit, and silence. So when Mayweather tries to minimize Usyk's accomplishments, what he's really doing is defending his own. Because deep down, he knows that legacy is about more than numbers. It's about what you endured, what you risked, and what you stood for. And in that arena, Usyk's legacy may not be as loud, but it hits a hell of a lot harder.
8 months. Do this. Walk, run, boxing. defended, eat, sleep, blah, 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 blah.
Boxing has always been more than punches and footwork. It's theater, identity, and ideology packed into 12 rounds. And in many ways, this brief but loaded feud between Mayweather and Usyk pulled the curtain back on a deeper tension within the sport. It's not just about two fighters trading jabs through interviews. It's about the global split in how boxing greatness is defined, marketed, and remembered. Floyd Mayweather represents the pinnacle of boxing capitalism. He's the poster child for the sport as empire mindset, where records are sacred, money is king, and every moment is curated for maximum personal gain. He turned his image into a weapon, his wealth into proof of his worth, and his mic into a second career. Fans either love him for outsmarting the system or loathe him for never giving them the kind of wars they craved. Either way, he owned the narrative. But Usyk walks a different path, one that doesn't beg for lights or headlines. He fights because fighting is what he knows. There are no viral rants, no custom jets, no forced drama. His Instagram isn't filled with flexes. It's filled with faith, training, and war updates. For the purists, he's a reminder of what boxing used to be before it became a pay-per-view hustle. For newer fans raised on trash talk and knockout montages, Usyk might feel foreign, too quiet, too respectful, too real. That's what makes this moment between them so much bigger than it appears. When Floyd downplays Usyk, he's not just critiquing a fighter, he's defending a legacy built on control and calculation. And when Usyk responds with humble fire, he's not just defending his own name, he's standing up for an entirely different model of what greatness looks like in the ring. This isn't America versus Ukraine. It's not East versus West. It's a culture war between flash and focus, between legacy as a brand and legacy as burden. Mayweather fought to stay untouchable. Usyk fights like someone who's already been touched by things far worse than an uppercut. He doesn't wear his pain like a story, he wears it like armor. And fans are picking sides, not just between two fighters, but between two futures for the sport. Will boxing continue down the path of spectacle, where the biggest talkers sell the most tickets, or will it return to its roots, where the fighters who risk the most, both in and out of the ring, earn the crown? This isn't just Mayweather versus Usyk, it's a mirror held up to boxing itself, and the reflection is starting to change.
Easy. Easy. Too easy.
It's too easy.
Too easy. At 48, too easy.
There you go.
As soon as the clips hit social media, boxing fans lit up the comment sections like it was fight night. Some sided with Floyd, defending his status as the sport's all-time strategist, the man who fought everyone in his era and made boxing a global empire. But for many others, the reaction was blunt, raw, and one-sided. Usyk didn't deserve that. Floods of tweets praised Usyk's courage, his record, and the calm way he clapped back. In the court of public opinion, Mayweather wasn't the undefeated king. He was the insecure gatekeeper throwing shade from the sidelines. On Reddit, fans broke it down with forensic detail. One post compared the resumes fight for fight, highlighting how Usyk cleaned out an entire division and then went straight into one of the most dangerous heavyweight matchups without demanding a tune-up. Others pointed out that Mayweather, for all his genius, never dared to leap into a weight class that was naturally stacked against him. Floyd fought smart, one user wrote. Usyk fights dangerous. There's a difference. Boxing podcasts and analysts chimed in too. Some said Floyd's comments were just classic Mayweather showmanship, poking the bear to keep himself in headlines. Others speculated that he might actually feel threatened by Usyk's quiet rise to historical relevance. After all, when you've spent years building yourself up as the face of boxing, someone coming in and earning that respect without the flash, without the trash talk, and without the billions, that's a different kind of threat. And then there were the pros. A few former fighters threw support behind Usyk, calling him a true throwback warrior. No PR machine, no sidestepping danger, just old-school blood and steel. Floyd may have been trying to control the narrative, but the narrative flipped. Instead of people questioning Usyk's legacy, they started questioning Floyd's motivation. Because if you're still punching down after retirement, maybe it's not about setting the record straight. Maybe it's about protecting the only thing left, your reflection. This wasn't just a one-off moment, it felt like the opening bell to something deeper. The tension between Floyd Mayweather and Oleksandr Usyk isn't just about one quote or one clapback. It's about what happens when two empires, one built on image, the other on action, collide in public. And the question now is, does this end here, or is it just getting started? On the surface, there's no logical next step. Mayweather's retired, and Usyk's fighting at heavyweight, leagues above where Floyd ever roamed. But drama in boxing doesn't always need a ring. It needs narratives, voices, and egos. And Mayweather's ego is never far from a microphone. If Usyk keeps rising, especially if he beats Tyson Fury again or becomes undisputed heavyweight champion, the spotlight will naturally tilt his way. That's the kind of moment Mayweather historically doesn't let pass without inserting himself. There's also the media angle. Now that this back and forth has gone public, promoters and networks know it's gold. Don't be surprised if Mayweather is suddenly doing more interviews, more commentary, and more passive-aggressive shots at Usyk. Just enough to stir the pot, but not enough to call it beef. That's his signature move. Meanwhile, Usyk? He probably won't even respond again. He doesn't need to. His silence speaks louder than most fighters' shoutouts. Some fans are even wondering if this could spill over into camps, if Gervonta Davis or another TMT fighter ends up targeting someone from Usyk's circle, just to carry the grudge forward. That might sound far-fetched, but in boxing, where pride is currency and legacies are fragile, anything's possible when someone feels like their throne is being chipped away. What's clear is that Usyk didn't just stand his ground, he shifted it. And now, every time Mayweather speaks, people are going to listen a little differently. Because once you challenge a man like Usyk and get that kind of response, the narrative no longer belongs to you.
My place is a ring. For me, when I step in the ring, it doesn't matter what's going on. Me, my opponent, and the referee.
In the end, this wasn't just a soundbite war between two greats, it was a snapshot of what boxing has become. Floyd Mayweather, the architect of the modern boxing empire, trying to control the narrative from the shadows, still playing chess long after he's left the board. And Oleksandr Usyk, the silent technician who lets his fists do the storytelling, refusing to bow to flash or fame, rising through weight classes and war zones with nothing but grit, grace, and gloves. Mayweather's comment may have been meant to minimize, but what it did was magnify. It reminded fans of how rare Usyk is. A fighter who doesn't beg for headlines, who doesn't build fights with drama, yet somehow commands respect in every room he enters. Floyd may have meant to put Usyk in his place, but Usyk answered by redefining what place even means in this sport. It's not about being the loudest, it's about being the last man standing after the smoke clears. So now the world sees the contrast more clearly than ever. Mayweather, the legacy of perfection. Usyk, the legacy of purpose, one built on zero losses, the other built on zero fear. And if Floyd thinks he can outtalk that, he might have just picked the one fighter who doesn't need to say a word to win the whole conversation.